Freedom of Information Act, opening Pandora's box. For decades, the mysteries of our world remained sealed behind government walls, buried under red tape and locked away in dusty filing cabinets. However, that all began to change in 1966 with the introduction of the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, a landmark piece of legislation that has become a powerful tool in the hands of investigators, journalists, and curious citizens alike. FOIA allows individuals to request access to records and documents held by federal agencies. Though not every document is subject to release, and many remain heavily redacted for reasons such as national security or personal privacy, FOIA has undeniably increased governmental transparency. What many people do not realize is just how instrumental this act has become in unraveling strange and controversial narratives that were once considered the stuff of conspiracy theories. In recent years, the Internet has become a repository of declassified documents thanks to FOIA, some of which reveal events so bizarre that they challenge our understanding of reality itself. Whether it's strange military encounters, unexplained aerial phenomena, or accounts of government experiments gone awry, these files have opened a window into a hidden world that has long eluded the public eye. One of the most striking aspects of FOIA is how it has not only uncovered isolated incidents, but revealed patterns in how certain mysteries are handled or more accurately hidden by official institutions. For example, in the realm of UFO sightings and extraterrestrial encounters, FOIA has exposed the extent to which intelligence agencies have monitored, analyzed, and in some cases attempted to cover up incidents involving unidentified flying objects. Reports that were once ridiculed as science fiction are now confirmed by official documents often containing photos, eyewitness accounts, and technical analysis that make them impossible to dismiss outright. These revelations have not only reignited public interest in the paranormal and unexplained, but have also forced scientific and military communities to re-examine long-held assumptions. As more documents continue to be released, sometimes quietly without public announcements, online researchers and digital archivists are finding new mysteries in the margins of bureaucratic records. Perhaps what's most chilling is not just what these documents say, but what they imply that we have only scratched the surface. While FOIA has lifted the curtain slightly, it's evident that vast troves of information remain inaccessible. Many believe that what we've seen so far are just crumbs compared to what still lies classified. For some, that thought is comforting, suggesting that governments are trying to protect us from destabilizing knowledge. For others, it's a source of deep frustration, proof that those in power decide what truth we're allowed to know. Regardless of which side one stands on, one thing is clear: the Freedom of Information Act has irreversibly changed the way we engage with mysteries. It is no longer enough to shrug off strange occurrences as urban legends or fabrications. Now there is documentation, however incomplete, that invite us to keep asking questions. In this way, FOIA has become more than a legal mechanism. It has become the key that unlocked Pandora's box. The Siberian Incident 23. Soldiers turned to stone. Among the strangest revelations unearthed through FOIA requests and declassified intelligence is a chilling and little-known event, often referred to as the Siberian Incident of 1993. Buried within a trove of old KGB files reportedly obtained by the CIA following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, one document stands out for its sheer horror and seeming impossibility. According to the report, a Soviet military unit stationed in a remote region of Siberia encountered an unidentified flying object, a classic disc-shaped craft, which triggered a series of events that allegedly led to 23 soldiers being turned into stone. Though the story sounds like the plot of a science fiction film its source, a 250-page intelligence file containing photographs, diagrams, and witness statements lends it an unnerving credibility. Even more unsettling is the fact that the Central Intelligence Agency did not outright dismiss the report as fantasy. Instead, an internal commentary described it as a horrific picture of revenge on the part of extraterrestrial creatures, and stated that it makes one's blood freeze. The document outlines the incident in disturbing detail. During routine training exercises, Soviet troops observed a low-flying saucer hovering nearby. For reasons still unknown, someone fired a surface-to-air missile, striking the craft and forcing it to crash. From the wreckage emerged 5 short humanoid beings with disproportionately large heads and jet-black eyes. 2 soldiers who ultimately survived claimed the beings gathered closely together before merging into a glowing spherical object. Within moments, the sphere began to emit a high-pitched whirring and intense light. Then, in a blinding flash, the light expanded and detonated with extraordinary brilliance. At that precise instant, the 23 soldiers who had been observing the phenomenon were instantly petrified, transformed, according to the report, into what appeared to be limestone statues. If true, this would represent a weapon or technology far beyond anything known to humanity. The surviving soldiers, shielded in part by shadows at the moment of the detonation, were the only witnesses left to describe the aftermath. The KGB report claims that the remains of the spacecraft and the petrified soldiers were quietly transferred to a top-secret scientific research facility near Moscow. Theories within the document speculate that the extraterrestrial device employed a form of energy completely unknown to modern science, something capable of rearranging organic molecules into stone-like structures instantaneously. The implications of this story are staggering. For one, it raises the terrifying possibility that extraterrestrials, if they exist, are not simply benign observers of our planet. This incident, if factual, portrays them as highly capable and willing to defend themselves with lethal force if provoked. The idea that a mere missile launch could provoke such an overwhelming and otherworldly retaliation is a warning in itself. It also challenges fundamental assumptions about biology, energy, and the limits of physics. If such technology exists, what else might be out there? Equally disturbing is the subdued reaction of the intelligence community. That the CIA would catalog and discuss such a bizarre report without public disclosure for decades speaks volumes about the kind of information still withheld from the general public. It's no surprise, then, that this document, now quietly accessible on the CIA's own website, has fueled a storm of online speculation. For many, it is the smoking gun they've been waiting for, undeniable evidence that we are not alone, and that our interactions with otherworldly beings may already be far more dangerous than we dare imagine. The hunting trip that ended in mystery. Lamar Pep Mola. When a skilled hunter with nearly a decade of wilderness experience goes missing under suspicious circumstances, the logical mind searches for a natural explanation. But the case of 22-year-old Lamar Pep Mola, who vanished in the forests near Wallace, Idaho in November of 1953, defies such conclusions. His disappearance was not merely unusual, it was laced with inconsistencies, strange weather patterns, missing items, and an official response that left more questions than answers. Despite being young, Lamar was no amateur. He had spent much of his life outdoors, often hunting, camping, and exploring remote terrain. His wife described nature as his second home, which made his sudden vanishing during a routine deer hunt all the more alarming. On November 21st, Lamar set out for a solo trip in an area he knew intimately. He told his wife he would either return later that evening or the following morning. But when he failed to come home, she reported him missing. Almost immediately, something eerie happened. A sudden, violent blizzard swept through the area, dropping over 20 inches of snow, despite weather forecasts that had predicted nothing more than light showers for the coming weeks. This storm not only buried the region, but also obscured any potential tracks, making search and rescue efforts far more difficult. It was as if nature itself was conspiring to cover up what had happened. Despite the harsh conditions, search efforts commenced quickly. Over 60 volunteers, including friends, sheriff deputies, and Forest Service personnel, scoured the area. Yet it wasn't until 4 days later, after the storm subsided, that searchers discovered Lamar's abandoned vehicle. Nearby lay something even more bizarre, half of a deer carcass. There was no blood trail, no sign of struggle, just a clean severing as though the other half of the animal had been taken or vanished entirely. Within hours of discovering the vehicle, they found Lamar's body just under a mile away, buried under the snow. The initial theory was that Lamar may have been attacked by a wild animal. However, his body showed no signs of an attack. Even stranger, he was found lying on his back with a large empty backboard, as if he had been carrying the missing half of the deer. No weapon was located. His rifle, personal effects, and several pieces of hunting gear were missing, not scattered, but entirely absent. Law enforcement officials issued vague statements, and within days, the county coroner declared the cause of death to be a sudden heart attack. Yet no autopsy was performed. Lamar's family was stunned by the abruptness of the conclusion, especially given his young age and excellent physical condition. Locals began whispering of a cover-up. Rumors spread about what had truly happened in those woods, about things the authorities might not want the public to know. Some even suggested Lamar had encountered something unnatural, something that caused his death in a way modern science could not explain. The cleanly halved deer, the missing items, the inexplicable storm, the refusal to conduct an autopsy, these pieces do not fit neatly into any conventional puzzle. To this day, the death of Lamar Pep Muller remains one of the most disturbing unsolved cases in Idaho's history. Officially, it's been filed away as a tragic accident. But for those who knew him and for those who've studied the case, there is a lingering sense that something else, something far more mysterious and possibly sinister occurred that winter in the woods. The Grafton Monster, the Headless Horror. The town of Grafton, West Virginia, may seem like just another quiet American community, but in June of 1964, it became the epicenter of one of the most bizarre and widely reported cryptid sightings in U.S. history. The creature in question, later dubbed the Grafton Monster, was described as a massive white-skinned bipedal being with no visible head and an oily, smooth texture reminiscent of a seal. Though it exhibited no overt aggression, its otherworldly appearance and eerie silence were enough to ignite mass hysteria, spawn monster hunting mobs, and invite speculations that have continued for decades. What sets this encounter apart from other urban legends is that its first witness was not a thrill-seeking teenager or a fringe conspiracy theorist. It was a respected journalist. Robert Cockrell, a reporter for the Grafton Sentinel, had just finished a late shift at the newspaper office and was driving home on the evening of June 16, 1964, when he saw something unusual on the side of the road near the Tigert River Bridge. Initially thinking it was a large piece of debris or an oddly shaped rock, Cockrell slowed his car for a better look. As he came closer, he realized it was something far more strange. A towering white figure between 7 and 9 feet tall and nearly 4 feet wide standing motionless by the roadside. The creature had no discernible head, and its body gave off a slick, rubbery sheen under the moonlight. Unnerved but curious, Cockrell continued home, unsure whether he had seen a living creature or some freakish natural anomaly. Once home, he called several friends and returned to the site with them, hoping to find the entity again. Though the creature had vanished, the group found disturbed grass in the area, pressed down as if something massive had been standing there. They also reported hearing an eerie, low, whistling noise from the nearby woods, a sound that couldn't be identified or located. The next morning, Cockrell reported the sighting to local police, who dismissed it outright. Frustrated, he turned to his editor, who permitted him to publish a short article detailing the incident. What happened next was a phenomenon in itself. Word spread quickly through the tight-knit town. By nightfall, on June 17th, mobs of teenagers and townspeople, some armed with baseball bats, crowbars, and even firearms, began roaming the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of the creature. The scene was chaotic, a strange mix of excitement, fear, and communal curiosity. While some claimed to be monster hunters in jest, others took the search seriously, especially after whispers of additional sightings emerged. The following night, the crowd returned even larger than before, clogging roads and prompting a response from multiple law enforcement agencies. Though no creature was captured, the event drew national attention and cemented the Grafton monster in American folklore. Strangely, government agencies reportedly tried to quell the panic by downplaying the event and discouraging further public speculation. Despite efforts to discredit the sighting, more than 20 witnesses, many of them unrelated, came forward to describe a creature that matched Cockrell's description almost exactly. To this day, no one has offered a definitive explanation. Was it an unknown animal, an alien being, or a psychological phenomenon sparked by mass suggestion? Whatever the truth may be, the Grafton monster remains an enduring mystery, headless, silent, and haunting the edges of belief. The Missouri Connection and the Dewey Lake Monster. The Grafton monster was not an isolated phenomenon. In the weeks surrounding the 1964 West Virginia encounter, similar sightings were reported across several states, adding fuel to the theory that this mysterious being may not be local at all. Among these, the Dewey Lake Monster in Michigan and an unnamed creature spotted in Missouri stand out as compelling parallels. Witnesses described large bipedal beings with immense height, glowing eyes, and unusual physical features, traits that strikingly align with those of the Grafton monster. These widespread reports raise a provocative possibility. Were these sightings regional anomalies, or could they be manifestations of a single migratory entity using natural waterways as hidden passageways across America? Let's begin with the Dewey Lake Monster. 1 week prior to Robert Cockrell's infamous sighting in Grafton, 6 witnesses reported seeing a massive, hair-covered humanoid creature near Dewey Lake, Michigan. The group, consisting of Mr. and Mrs. John Attrap Patsy and Gail Clayton, Gordon Brown, and Joyce Smith, had been visiting a farm south of the lake when they saw what would later be dubbed the Sister Lakes Sasquatch. They described a creature over 10 feet tall, covered head to toe in hair, and weighing an estimated 500 pounds. Most chilling of all were its eyes, luminous and glowing in the dark, piercing through the trees. While the creature differed in texture and hair from the Grafton monster, its stature, presence, and sudden vanishing act sparked clear comparisons. Even more astonishing was a sighting that took place nearly 800 miles away along the Missouri River, a tributary of the vast Mississippi River system. An unnamed man claimed to have seen what he believed to be the Grafton monster, not once, but twice. In his account, the creature first appeared while he and his father were cutting wood. Their dogs began barking aggressively. The air grew tense as something massive approached through the forest. The figure stopped within 50 yards of them, staring silently, before turning and disappearing into the trees. The man's second encounter was more unsettling. While night fishing, alone he saw the creature standing on the opposite riverbank. Terrified, he left the area immediately. These sightings shared a consistency with the Grafton monster, immense size, lack of sound, and an unshakable sense of fear. Researchers have pointed out that many of these sightings occur near river systems, particularly those connected to the Mississippi. This observation has led to a compelling hypothesis. The creature or creatures use rivers as natural highways, allowing them to travel great distances undetected. If true, this could explain how multiple sightings with similar descriptions occur across hundreds of miles in short periods. It also lends weight to the theory that these beings are not rooted in one place, but are migratory, perhaps even sentient, with an instinct or intelligence that defies our current understanding of biology. Unlike folklore monsters tied to a single region, the Grafton monster and its lookalikes may represent a new category of cryptid, transient, elusive, and possibly connected to larger natural or even extraterrestrial systems. What ties them together is the deep unease they inspire, immense, silent, and never fully seen. Whether hairy or smooth, glowing or headless, the creatures reported across Michigan, Missouri, and West Virginia seem to hint at something ancient moving through the forgotten channels of America, just beneath our awareness. Gray Barker's theory. The monster was an alien. Experiment? In the world of unexplained phenomena, it's often the fringe theories that strike closest to the bone, not because they're proven, but because they fit into a larger, unsettling pattern. Such is the case with Gray Barker's interpretation of the Grafton monster. Known as a dedicated UFO researcher and author, Barker was no stranger to controversy. He played a pivotal role in popularizing the concept of the Men in Black, and was well connected within the International Flying Saucer Bureau. When he heard about Robert Cockrell's sighting and the ensuing hysteria in Grafton, he was intrigued enough to launch his own investigation. But what he ultimately proposed went far beyond cryptozoology. It crossed into the realm of extraterrestrial experimentation. According to Barker, the Grafton monster might not have been a naturally evolved Earth species at all. Instead, he theorized that it was a biologically engineered entity, possibly a test subject created by alien beings to assess Earth's atmosphere and terrain. The theory was based on several strange clues. For one, the creature made no aggressive moves, showed no apparent fear, and didn't flee like a typical animal. Second, multiple witnesses reported hearing a peculiar, high-pitched whistling or whooshing sound in the vicinity, before or after the sightings, possibly the sound of a hovering or cloaked spacecraft. Barker suggested that this noise could be the signature of a nearby UFO that had dropped the creature onto Earth and then later retrieved it. What made Barker's hypothesis stand out was its internal logic. If an alien species wanted to conduct field research on a foreign planet, especially one as biologically diverse and atmospherically complex as Earth, it might not send its own kind first. Instead, it could genetically engineer a hybrid organism, something that could survive Earth's conditions, interact passively with the environment, and then return to its creators for analysis. Barker imagined that the Grafton monster was one such creation. Its lack of a visible head, eerie silence, and oily skin could be features optimized for Earth's climate or camouflage. The creature didn't attack because it had no purpose other than observation. Though Barker reportedly began drafting a formal report for publication within the International Flying Saucer Bureau, he never completed or released it. To this day, no one knows exactly why. Some speculate that Barker encountered pressure from government officials or even from within the UFO community to drop the story. Others believe he simply lost faith in the credibility of the incident, suspecting it might have been a hoax. However, many of those familiar with Barker's work think the opposite, that he may have found evidence too dangerous or disturbing to share publicly. This mystery, like the Grafton monster itself, remains unresolved. Whether or not Barker's theory is accurate, it adds a provocative layer to the Grafton narrative. It reframes the creature not as a terrestrial cryptid, but as a tool, an alien probe dressed in organic skin, wandering through the forests of West Virginia. And if it was a test subject, the real question becomes, what were its creators testing for? And more importantly, did they find what they were looking for? The phantom hitchhiker of Bluebell Hill. Few legends strike a more chilling chord than the tale of the phantom hitchhiker. Variants of this story exist around the world, but the account from Bluebell Hill, located in Kent County, England, has become one of the most famous and unsettling ghost stories of modern times. The core of the tale centers on a solitary motorist driving through the countryside during a thunderstorm who encounters a mysterious young woman in a wedding dress. What begins as a moment of roadside compassion quickly devolves into a terrifying brush with the supernatural one that has left witnesses deeply shaken and investigators puzzled. The most well-known version of the Bluebell Hill incident took place in the 1970s. According to the driver's account, it was a stormy winter night when he was forced to slow his car due to heavy rain and lightning. Along a remote stretch of road near the hill, he spotted a woman standing on the roadside, soaked and wearing what appeared to be a white bridal gown. Her long black hair was matted to her body, her posture slumped, and she frantically waved him down. Assuming she was a stranded motorist or in distress, the man stopped and offered her a ride. Without speaking a word, the woman nodded and got into the back seat of the car, providing only her address when prompted. As they drove through the dark countryside, the driver attempted to initiate small talk, but she remained eerily silent, repeating her address in a flat tone when he asked questions. He assumed she had undergone some sort of trauma and decided not to press the issue. When they finally reached the house, she had named the man turned around to tell her they had arrived, only to discover that the back seat was completely empty. She had vanished without a sound. What happened next only deepened the mystery. The driver noticed a small purse lying in the back seat, presumably left behind by the phantom passenger. Alarmed, but still hopeful that she might have simply exited the car quietly, he approached the house. An elderly couple answered the door after several minutes of knocking. Upon hearing the story, they stood in stunned silence. When the man handed them the purse, the woman's eyes filled with tears. She explained that the purse and the description of the woman matched that of their daughter, who had died in a car accident on Bluebell Hill several years earlier under eerily similar storm conditions. What makes this account particularly haunting is not just the emotional impact, but the consistency with which it has been reported. Over the years, multiple drivers have come forward with nearly identical experiences, each involving a woman in white, a sudden disappearance, and some trace left behind, such as a purse or a scarf. The story has become part of Kent folklore, blurring the line between legend and lived experience. Skeptics often chalk such tales up to overactive imaginations, false memories, or urban myths passed from friend to friend. But Bluebell Hill's story resists such simple explanations. The specificity of the location, the recurrence of the event, and the presence of physical objects afterward challenge the conventional dismissal of ghost stories. Whether the phantom hitchhiker is a residual haunting a time slip or something beyond our comprehension, she remains one of the most enduring and terrifying mysteries of the English countryside. Pluckley, the most haunted village in Britain. If there is a place where the veil between the physical world and the supernatural appears dangerously thin, it is the village of Pluckley in Kent County, England. Officially recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the most haunted village in Britain, Pluckley is a patchwork of medieval streets, centuries-old structures, and countryside lanes saturated with ghost stories. With more than 12 distinct hauntings reported over the years, this otherwise peaceful village has earned a reputation as a hotspot for paranormal encounters. Among these, one particularly unnerving tale has come to symbolize the chilling character of the village. The account of Raymond Breakspear, a local taxi driver who came face to face with something or someone that should not have existed. According to Breakspear, the incident occurred around 2:45 a.m. on an unassuming night. While driving through the rural roads that connect Pluckley to nearby villages, he saw a lone man standing at the roadside. Dressed in dark clothing, the figure waved to signal he needed a ride. Raymond, accustomed to picking up late-night fares, often pub-goers or locals returning home, pulled over and asked if the man needed help. Strangely, the man didn't respond directly, but instead muttered an unfamiliar address multiple times. Concerned, Raymond told him to hop in and then return to the driver's seat. What followed was the beginning of an encounter that defied rational explanation. As the taxi moved forward, Raymond began to feel an oppressive, heavy presence settle over the car. The atmosphere felt unnatural, as if the countryside itself had gone quiet in anticipation. When he turned back to ask the passenger again for directions, the back seat was empty. There had been no door opening, no exit sound, no indication of movement. The man had simply vanished. In disbelief, Raymond pulled over and began searching the roadside, but no one was in sight. The car doors were locked while in motion, making it impossible for the passenger to have left without being noticed. Weeks later, while recounting the story to fellow taxi drivers, Raymond discovered he was not alone. Other drivers had experienced nearly identical encounters, phantom passengers in white dresses or dark suits who vanished mid-ride whispering incomprehensible directions, or simply staring blankly until disappearing into thin air. In some cases, doors would unlatch themselves while driving through Pluckley's winding roads, or drivers would hear laughter or sobbing coming from the back seat with no visible source. These sightings echo the village's broader supernatural lore, which includes the Red Lady of St. Nicholas Church, the Screaming Man of the Brickworks, and the ghostly highwayman stabbed to death at Fright Corner. Locals and ghost hunters alike have reported temperature drops, disembodied voices, and sudden electrical malfunctions within the village's limits. Even scientific teams who've attempted to investigate Pluckley have left with more questions than answers. What makes Pluckley truly eerie isn't just the number of sightings, but the deeply personal and often emotional nature of these hauntings. These aren't just fleeting shadows or bumps in the night, they're experiences that leave lasting impressions on those who witness them. Raymond Breakspeare's story, like many others, serves as a reminder that some places carry a weight beyond explanation, a psychic residue that clings to the land, to the roads, and perhaps even to the people who pass through. In Pluckley, that weight is not just folklore, it is living memory. The Kentish ape-man of the 1850s, long before modern cryptids like Bigfoot capture the public imagination, a strange and terrifying creature was reportedly seen roaming the fields and forests of Kent County, England. Dubbed the Kentish ape-man, this bizarre entity was said to be a large baboon-like humanoid covered in brown or gray fur, walking upright like a man and standing between 7 and 8 feet tall. What makes this story particularly intriguing is that it wasn't passed down as vague folklore. It was widely reported in 19th century newspapers, including the Kentish Gazette, and sparked serious public concern, organized searches, and official responses from authorities. The consistency of these early accounts and the panic they caused mark the Kentish ape-man as one of the earliest documented cryptid phenomena in the Western world. The most prominent incident occurred during the harvest season of 1858 near the village of Great Chart. A farm worker was tending to a wheat field known as Buck's Farm when he spotted the towering, hairy figure walking on 2 legs. It had long limbs, an elongated ape-like gait, and disturbingly human eyes embedded in its smooth, fur-covered face. According to reports, the man was so overcome with fear that he collapsed on the spot, completely paralyzed with terror. When he finally managed to regain control of his body, he struggled to climb over a fence and flee the area. His encounter was detailed vividly in the Kentish Gazette, which noted his inability to describe what he saw without his hair standing on end. Following this sighting, the man reportedly fell ill with a mysterious condition that could not be explained by any medical authority of the time. Locals believed his sickness was a result of the shock, but some speculated a more sinister cause. Perhaps he had encountered something unearthly, a creature not meant to be seen by human eyes. The story quickly spread, and soon groups of armed men from Great Chart and neighboring villages began organizing expeditions to track down the beast. When no sign of the creature could be found, they traveled by horse and cart to Ashford to seek assistance from law enforcement. But the police dismissed the matter, suggesting the creature was simply an escaped baboon from a traveling circus, an explanation that failed to account for the repeated sightings and strange behavior. Over the following weeks, reports continued to pour in. A young girl near Newgate Wood claimed to have watched the creature for several minutes, describing its height, fur, and human-like face in uncanny detail. That same day, a local shepherd abandoned his flock after spotting the creature moving among the sheep. These sightings triggered a final organized hunt involving townspeople and even students from the national school. But the creature remained elusive. What lends the Kentish ape-man legend additional weight is its strange aftermath. Just as suddenly as it appeared, the creature vanished, and so did the sightings. Some believe it disappeared into the thick forest. Others propose it retreated underground, possibly into one of the many hidden chalk caves beneath Kent County. And there lies the foundation for a chilling theory that the Kentish ape-man may not have been a surface-dwelling animal at all, but a remnant of something older, deeper, and far more mysterious. Chislehurst Caves and Prehistoric Secrets. Beneath the rolling hills and quaint villages of Kent lies a vast, shadowy world, hidden from view, the Chislehurst Caves. Spanning over 22 miles in total, these man-made tunnels form an elaborate subterranean labyrinth whose full extent is still not completely mapped. While modern visitors might regard the caves as a historical curiosity or a tourist attraction, some researchers and locals believe they are far more than that. According to legends and archaeological theories, these caves may date back thousands of years, possibly to a prehistoric era, and may even explain the recurring sightings of mysterious creatures like the Kentish ape-man. Could these tunnels have once served as a refuge for an unknown species? Or are they a spiritual nexus harboring energies and entities from a forgotten past? The earliest written reference to the Chislehurst Caves appears in a Saxon charter from the 9th century, yet it is widely accepted among historians that the caves predate this by millennia. Theories suggest that the ancient Druids may have used them as sacred ceremonial sites. Supporting this are strange carvings in the chalk walls, depictions of humanoid faces with animalistic features, including some that appear disturbingly ape-like. Were these simply religious symbols or primitive attempts to record actual encounters with unexplainable beings? While no definitive answers exist, the eerie similarity between these carvings and eyewitness descriptions of the Kentish ape-man is hard to ignore. During the 19th century, the caves were rediscovered and used as mining sites for chalk and lime. Around the same time, an uptick in supernatural sightings occurred in nearby regions. Reports of ghostly figures, disembodied voices, and even encounters with cryptid-like creatures began to surface with alarming frequency. Then, mysteriously, the caves were closed in the 1860s, shortly after the last reported wave of sightings. The reasons for the closure remain unclear, and the timing has only deepened the intrigue. Some speculate that the tunnels may house dangerous energy or entities, while others believe more practical explanations like cave-ins or structural instability. Yet these theories fail to explain the supernatural element that has clung to the caves for centuries. Adding to the mystery are vertical shafts within the cave network that descend into unknown depths difficult to locate from the surface. This peculiar feature aligns eerily with certain sightings of the Kentish ape-man, which include eyewitnesses claiming the creature sank into the ground before vanishing. Were these shafts natural, escape routes, secret chambers, or perhaps entrances to something even more hidden? More recently, the discovery of a human skeleton over 10,000 years old within the cave system has reignited interest in its ancient origins. This would place human activity in the caves around the end of the last ice age, long before the rise of complex civilizations. Could a group of early humans have lived underground, adapting in isolation over generations? If so, what traces, biological, cultural, or metaphysical, might they have left behind? The Chislehurst Caves are not just historical relics, they are living repositories of mystery. From prehistoric carvings and forgotten rituals to whispered stories of cryptids and ghosts. The caves form a dark and silent witness to centuries of human fear, wonder, and speculation. Whether linked to the Kentish ape-man or simply the product of ancient imagination, one thing is certain: the truth of what lies beneath Kent remains buried in shadow, daring the brave and the curious to descend and discover what secrets the earth still hides. Mystery as a reflection of the unknown. Across centuries, continents, and cultures, the human fascination with the unknown has remained constant. We are drawn to mysteries not merely because they frighten or entertain us, but because they reveal something fundamental about our relationship with reality. Each unsolved case, whether it involves extraterrestrial retaliation, ghostly hitchhikers, cryptids roaming the countryside, or ancient underground networks, taps into a primal part of our psyche. They remind us that despite our scientific advances and technological achievements, there is still much about this world and perhaps other worlds that remains hidden. These mysteries are not anomalies in our understanding. They are evidence of how much we have yet to learn. The stories explored here: soldiers turned to stone by a blinding sphere in Siberia, a hunter found mysteriously dead in a snow-covered forest, a massive creature prowling West Virginia, and ghosts thumbing for rides through Kent's stormy hills are not isolated fairy tales. They are connected by a deeper thread, the limits of what we consider possible. As more declassified documents surface and new technologies allow for greater exploration and data collection, we are beginning to uncover truths that were once buried, sometimes literally, beneath layers of bureaucracy, fear, or willful ignorance. The Freedom of Information Act has already begun peeling back the veil, allowing ordinary people to piece together fragments of forbidden knowledge once reserved for intelligence agencies and closed-door military briefings. But these revelations also come with an uncomfortable implication that the institutions we trust may know more than they're telling, that unexplained disappearances may not be mere accidents, that strange creatures may walk among us unseen, that legends passed down as folklore may in fact contain grains of truth. For every case that is explained, 10 more remain tangled in ambiguity. The deeper we dig, the more we uncover threads that lead not to resolution, but to deeper confusion, hinting at realities that defy our current paradigms. Mystery, then, is not the enemy of knowledge, it is its gateway. Without mystery, there is no curiosity, no drive to explore, no compulsion to reach beyond the boundaries of comfort and conventional thought. The world needs its monsters, its ghosts, its cosmic puzzles, not because they are dangerous, but because they keep us humble. They remind us that we are not the masters of this universe, but curious participants still navigating a vast and complex existence. In this way, Unsolved Mysteries are more than tabloid headlines or late-night campfire stories. They are cultural mirrors. They reflect our deepest fears, our unspoken desires, and our enduring hunger for meaning. Whether or not we ever discover the final truth behind these tales, the pursuit itself reveals something profound, that in chasing the unknown, we are really seeking to understand ourselves. So the next time you hear a strange sound in the woods, see a flicker in the corner of your eye, or come across a declassified file that makes your skin crawl, don't be too quick to dismiss it. Perhaps mystery isn't here to be solved. Perhaps it's here to teach us how little we truly know and how much more there is to see. The echoes of the unknown. Our fascination with the unexplained is not a flaw of reason, it is an echo of the soul's deeper longing. In a world increasingly defined by algorithms, predictive models, and neatly categorized data, there remains an undeniable allure to the untamed, the hidden, and the unknowable. When we confront a mystery, we're not just encountering the unknown, we're standing before a mirror that reflects how fragile our sense of certainty truly is. It is in these moments when logic stumbles, when explanations falter, that a more ancient part of us awakens. That part doesn't ask, "What is the answer?" but rather, "What does this mean for me?" Mysteries don't merely challenge the external world, they challenge the internal one. They prod at the edges of our personal narratives. If a creature we thought mythical turns out to be real, what else have we misjudged? If time slips oddly in a forest, or voices echo where no one stands, then what does that say about our perception of reality? These are not just questions of science, but of identity. The moment we admit that something might lie beyond our understanding, we also open the door to reevaluating who we are, what we value, and how we live. Moreover, the cultural persistence of mystery speaks to its psychological necessity. Every civilization, from the earliest cave dwellers to modern technocrats, has carved space in its worldview for the inexplicable. These aren't merely gaps in knowledge. They are intentional openings in the fabric of belief. Without them, the human psyche risks collapse under the weight of presumed total understanding. Ironically, complete certainty is not comforting, it is imprisoning. It leaves no room for wonder, no tolerance for ambiguity, no invitation to grow. Mystery, in contrast, is a space where awe can live, where the imagination is not just permitted, but required. In this sense, mystery may serve a spiritual function in secular times. As traditional religious structures have waned in much of the modern world, people still yearn for sacredness, for experiences that transcend daily routine and material explanation. Unsolved mysteries offer a modern kind of sacred space. They ask us to suspend disbelief, to engage in symbolic thinking, to entertain metaphors as well as facts. Whether it's a creature in the woods, a whisper in a cave, or a memory of a dream that feels too real, the unknown returns us to a realm once reserved for gods and spirits. It reminds us of the thinness of the veil separating the visible from the invisible. The persistence of mystery also guards against intellectual arrogance. In the rush for scientific conquest, we often forget how recently we emerged from darkness ourselves. Only in the past few centuries have we begun to unlock the secrets of cells, stars, and atoms. For millennia before, humanity lived in stories, in symbols, in myths passed around the fire. And yet perhaps those myths were not errors of ignorance, but different forms of truth. Truths encoded not in numbers, but in narrative. Not in instruments, but in intuition. The idea that knowledge must always be empirical is itself a modern dogma and one that unsolved mysteries regularly disrupt. These phenomena remind us that reality may be stranger than science allows. There is also a collective evolutionary value to mystery. The act of investigating the unknown cultivates curiosity, resilience, cooperation, and humility. These are traits that not only benefit individuals, but societies at large. When a community bands together to search for a missing person in a haunted forest, or when thousands pore over declassified documents for clues to strange events, it creates a shared sense of purpose. A mystery doesn't have to be solved to be meaningful. Its value may lie in the search itself. In trying to understand the universe, we create meaning, connection, and even hope. But perhaps the most profound aspect of all is this: some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but lived. They exist to guide us inward, not outward. They are invitations to contemplation, not closure. They say to us, you are part of something vaster than your senses can grasp. You are more than the sum of your roles, your data, your memories. You are a question in search of an answer, and the answer may not be words but presence. In the end, the mysteries that remain, those that whisper through the trees, flicker at the edge of vision, or haunt the annals of forgotten newspapers, are not relics of ignorance but reminders of wonder. They are not puzzles to be dismissed, but portals to be honored. For as long as we seek the truth with humility and listen with reverence to what we do not yet understand, the unknown will continue to bless us, not with fear, but with awe. And maybe that is enough.